This video will describe the main clause button in structural adjustment rules. And there are two main situations when you want to use the main clause button. The first one is when you want to combine two simple propositions into a more complex proposition. And that's what this rule is doing that we're looking at right now. This input structure is saying there's two main propositions, and the first one can't have a subordinate clause of any kind. And the second one is saying that there can't be a preposed adverbial clause. And when all of these criteria are satisfied, then this rule will move the second one into the first one. This is applying to two declarative sentences. If we go here, it's applying to two imperatives, two commands. There are several structures here. This one is saying if two declarative sentences, and they both have a mood of should. The mood on this verb is should, and the mood on this verb is should. And this will again move the second one, the second proposition into the first. And this is saying the mood is unspecified. We don't want to repeat should. Down here in the comment, Condi Story 1.3, we should go to our house and talk to our mother. We don't want to say we should go to our house and should talk to our mother. So the mood on the second verb is changed to unspecified, so we won't get two shoulds. There are multiple structures here. For this video, I'd like to show you the other example, when we want to break a complex sentence apart. For example, this sentence here, we're at Exodus 25, verse 39, sentence 1, and it has this embedded adverbial clause. This is fine in English. Some languages I've worked in, they want very short, simple clauses. So they move the subordinate adverbial clauses out and make them separate sentences. And that's what I'll show you in this video. So let's start a new rule. I'm going to choose verbs. Later we're going to change that, but for now we'll choose verbs. And right now when we're working on the input structure, if we choose main clause, it will add another second clause for us. And you see this checkbox enabled. Import final sentence from previous verse when necessary. Sometimes you want to include the last sentence of the previous verse, and you might look at it, and then based on the contents of that sentence you'll make various decisions in the second sentence. That only applies, this won't, if we check this won't cross chapter boundaries. So you'll never, if you're working in the first verse of a chapter, it won't pull in the last sentence of the last verse of the preceding chapter. This stops at chapter boundaries. And so right now, if the software is translating the first verse of a sentence, of a verse, and you've checked this box, then it will pull in the last sentence of the preceding verse. That's where we say when necessary. If the software is translating the second sentence of a verse, then it's not necessary. Then this sentence would be the first verse, the first sentence in the verse, and this sentence would be the second sentence in the verse. But that's not what we're talking about for this video. So I'm going to uncheck that. And in fact, we're going to delete this. If we delete this, that's fine. If we try to delete this, we get a warning message saying you can't delete the main clause boundaries. But we can delete this one. Okay? So for this example, we're going to put a subordinate clause in here. And if we try to go to the output structure right now, it won't let us. Before you can enter the output structure, you must enter at least one verb into the input structure. But I want to show you something. So we're going to change this to clause. Now we can go here. And now if we say main clause, it adds another clause. And now we can move this subordinate clause. Let's tag this as an event modifier, an adverbial clause. And now we can move this into here. And now when we move it, we don't want the subordinate clause boundaries anymore. So we can say delete. But now the software thinks we want to delete the entire adverbial clause. But that doesn't make any sense to delete it and then move it. We want to keep what's inside the clause. We only want to delete the subordinate clause boundaries. So let's go back and we're going to put a verb phrase into here, and we'll put a verb into here. And now we can go back and change this to verb like I had initially. Now, just to illustrate, okay, now if we click on delete, it thinks we want to delete the entire clause. We don't. We only want to delete the subordinate clause boundaries. So we can click on here, and now the software knows we want to keep everything that's inside the subordinate clause. We only want to delete the subordinate clause boundaries. So let's give this a name, AAA. We'll say OK. And notice here there's an adverbial clause boundary. So when that rule is executed, it will move this adverbial clause into a new sentence, and it will delete the adverbial clause boundaries. Let's say generate. So now we see this new sentence. All those features are unspecified, but if we say here, inserted by structural adjustment rule, rule number 3, AAA, that's the one we just wrote. Let's go back and clear this problem up. Let's go here. Okay, for this new sentence, we'll copy some features from here, but some will set. Let's set the features. Okay, this will be independent. It will be declarative. For the topic noun phrase, we want that to come from the adverbial clause. The speaker, listener, etc. These will come from the adverbial clause. We'll set one more. This is not an adverbial clause. And all these others, hopefully you watched a previous video where I talked about copying features. We want to copy features from this clause to this clause. So we'll click on here. We want to copy topic, noun, phrase, speaker, listener, all of these, speech style. These others we won't copy. Copy stative clause type. We won't copy this one. We'll copy voice. Okay, so now, so we've set some features and copied some other features. And now, if we generate again, we see here, this was inserted by that structural adjustment rule. The features were changed. Okay, many of them were copied from the adverbial clause to this new clause by that structural adjustment rule. So that's the second time. So now we have two propositions. Moses used 34 kilograms of pure gold. Okay, we would need to do some additional cleaning up. When Moses made this lamp and the tools, we would probably want to delete this. We would probably want this new sentence to precede the first sentence. And we can do that by giving this a special feature value for type, and then having our phrase structure rules order them appropriately. So there's more work to do, but that's how you can break one complex sentence into two simpler sentences.